Chainsaw Man is a series about a boy who... Come on, do I really need an introduction for this? Chainsaw Man is a series that everyone and their mother knows about. It was without a doubt one of the biggest things to have come out in recent time. Yet, it can never escape the mid allegations. And you see, I was just like you guys. I was spreading Midsaw Man propaganda all over the world. But after reading the manga, I have been enlightened. I have realized that I was fucking stupid. And now that I'm caught up, I have ascended. And I get it. Because it's so easy to be distracted by all the action that many people completely miss the point of the story. You see, Tatsuki Fujimoto has a very different kind of storytelling style compared to other mangas. And I'm sure you've heard the term show not tell thrown around when talking about Chainsaw Man. But what exactly does that mean? Alright. Now, think of 3 different shonen MCs just from the top of your head. Now, they may all have different personalities, different powers, different whatever. But what's the one thing they all have in common? They don't shut the fuck up! If I had to take a shot for every monologue that shows up in My Hero, just give me the whole bottle. Okay, listen, monologues aren't necessarily a bad thing, okay? Haikyuu may have a lot of generic tropes, but it's executed perfectly. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But it does feel refreshing to see important character moments shown to us through actions rather than told through hefty dialogue. It can tend to feel like the author is holding our hand throughout the story. Like, oh, and here you have the traumatic backstory. And on your right, the character development. But read any of Tatsuki's works and you'll understand what I mean. Like in his one-shot, Goodbye Eri, many of the manga scenes are depicted using absolutely no dialogue. And he would often spend several panels just to show the subtle movements the characters make. And the narrator didn't have to explain to you how they were feeling. You can just sense it through their actions. Or sometimes even the lack of actions. It just helps make those scenes feel so much more impactful. And allows the manga to make you feel a different kind of emotion. But I won't talk about it much now because, well, this is a Chainsaw Man video. But I do think it's an amazing introduction into Tatsuki Fujimoto's style of storytelling. This style of storytelling is probably why many people miss what makes Chainsaw Man good. And why Denji is such a misunderstood character. Yes, Denji is a main character whose primary goal is...
I really want to touch her boobs.
Trust me, I never expected myself to be defending this kind of thing either. But if you think he's nothing more than a perverted MC, you're completely missing the point. If you consider his life and the situation he's in, it makes sense. Born into poverty with an endless amount of debt inherited by his late father, Denji has gone through his entire life without the many things we are so privileged to have. A proper house, good food, clean water, and more than anything, he lacks any kind of social life. Denji is a very socially inept teenager, only really knowing how to follow orders from people. He lived his life doing anything for money, which included killing devils. Living in that kind of condition, it makes sense why he is the way he is. He was raised without any moral compass to live by, nor any dreams or ambitions. Every flaw Denji has is perfectly explained by his upbringing. And now that he's been given some sort of chance at a normal life, he is only now discovering the basic moral principles we have all grown up learning. Yes, Denji's first ever goal may be to cop a feel, but that's because he knows little to nothing about the concept of love. He knows he wants love, but because of his messed up childhood, he has a very twisted perception of love. You expect a boy to grow up with no one to care for him and expect him to know a single thing about romance? Come on. And episode 5 only further proves my point. After defeating the Bat Devil, Power decides to fulfill the promise she initially gave him, which was to... Yeah, Denji's a simple guy. And here they are, sitting in a bathroom stall with clogged shit. Denji suddenly feels a sudden rush of emotions as the goal he's worked so hard for is finally being fulfilled. He finally did it. He's finally gonna have the happiness he's dreamed of for years. He's gonna... He finally got what he wanted, but still felt empty. When he goes to Makima for guidance, he asks an interesting question. I've finally got what I've always wanted, but it didn't feel that great when I got it. If I want something else in the future, when I finally get what I want, would I still feel like I'm happier during the process? That kinda hits hard. You ever worked so hard for something only to realize the reward wasn't as good as you thought it was? That is a very real feeling, and I'm sure we've all experienced that sometime in our life. Here's another good one. Here we see the aftermath of the fight with Katana Man, and Aki is going through your average post-anime death clarity, and Power, it's just being Power. But Denji questions why he doesn't feel anything. Considering Denji saw his father die as a child and spent the rest of his life repaying his father's debt to the Yakuza, of course Denji would struggle to have any attachment to people, let alone care about people he just met. But he starts to wonder, would he be able to feel sorrow for people he cares about? He doesn't really know. And this is why I love Denji so much. Because despite how sick and twisted his mind is, you're reminded that he is still a human being. He is just a boy with a lot of unresolved trauma, trying to do what he thinks is right. We were all raised with morals by our parents, teachers, friends, and everyone around us. But Denji had none of that. And throughout Season 1, we see Denji slowly learn what it really means to be human. And my favorite parts of Chainsaw Man aren't from the bombastic fight scenes, but those few moments that take time to unravel the human side of Denji. But this is all just scratching the surface, and I believe Chainsaw Man's best moments have yet to be adapted. And as someone who usually swears to being an anime only, please, make Chainsaw Man your one exception. Otherwise, this is your first and last spoiler warning. Anyways, holy shit. Holy shit. There are a lot of things to go over right now. So we meet Reze, who is probably the best match for Denji in the entire series so far. Denji might be insane, but she is just as insane as him. I mean, come on, balls jokes, instant green flag. And of course, you can't have a love interest for Denji without having her want to kill him. Not only is she a Russian spy, but is literally the bomb devil. But something was different. She seemed so disappointed when Denji rejected her offer. Hell, why is Reze even asking him to run away with her? Denji was definitely manipulated here, but there seemed to be some truth to the things she said. And Reze probably meant it when she said she liked him. And after the fight, Denji finds himself conflicted about having her arrested. Instead, he offers her to run away with him. And in return, she snaps his fucking neck. Still desperate, Denji says to meet him in the cafe they always go to. And she actually did take up that offer. But just as she was about to get to the cafe, we are met by a surprising yet unsurprising guest. And this is where we start to question Makima's true intentions. I could just feel the pain in Denji's eyes through this panel. His feeling of disappointment and humiliation when he realized he was yet again manipulated by another girl. That many L's would fuck up anyone. And he would have stayed in this slump if it weren't for one thing. Family. Around this time is where we see Denji, Aki, and Power really start to feel like a family. And this is where Aki finally gets his time to shine. Initially, he didn't have much going on for him. Traumatized by the death of his family, he dedicates his life to finding and hunting down the gun devil, even if it kills him. And yes, he's aware of the risks. He knows he'll probably die before he can even hurt the gun devil. But he doesn't care. As we see in all his fights, he throws his life away like it's nothing. Every single heroic act he does takes years off his lifespan. He clearly has no respect over his own life at this point. Yes, I sympathize with Aki, but are you really going to throw your life away fighting a losing battle? Luckily, he doesn't go down that path. Here we see Aki about to go on a trip to visit his family's grave. A visit that is very depressing for him. But this time around, Denji and Power tag along with him. And they were as obnoxious as ever during this trip. But when all was said and done, Aki realized that having them around made this trip much less depressing. And that's where he realized he may have lost his family to the gun devil, but he has been given a new family to love through Power and Denji. And realizing the danger Denji and Power could get fighting the gun devil, he now wants to step down from the 4th division. The one thing to convince Aki to stop his endless revenge plot was to protect his new family. But Makima had other plans, and she refused to let Denji and Power leave. And with no other choice, Aki decides to stay in the 4th division. Aki suddenly gets a vision of the future, and realizing his time is near, he tells Makima he will make a contract with any devil, desperate to save Denji and Power. And Makima replies, "In that case, Will you make a contract with me? Wait, but can't only them? Makima is the control devil, with the ability to control anyone she deems inferior to her. Whether it's through defeating them in combat or by signing a contract, she can control them as long as she truly feels superior. And this contract was exactly what Makima wanted. The gun devil arrives in the shores of Japan, and Makima easily defeats him. But she allowed the gun devil to take over Aki, making him the gun fiend, forcing Denji to kill one of his closest friends. And this traumatizes Denji, and now he doesn't know what to do anymore. He couldn't help but wonder, was that really the only option? Did he really have to take the life of his best friend? Was there any way he could have saved Aki? He's so tired of having to make hard decisions in life. So when he comes over to Makima's place, he asks her to make him her dog. And for his first order, Makima tells him to open the door for Power, who she plans to kill. And Denji is stunned by this demand, yet follows her orders anyway. And as Power sits there with a birthday cake for Denji, Makima kills her in cold blood. And Denji's just paralyzed. I mean, how can you even begin to comprehend any of this? He asks Makima. He must be dreaming, right? And all Makima could think of doing was sit there and laugh. This scene has single-handedly made Makima one of my favorite antagonists ever. I was at a complete loss for words. I could barely even process everything myself. Makima did it. This is what she wanted. She wanted to break Denji's contract. Pochita gave his heart to Denji in exchange for Denji living a normal life. And Denji was already happy in the life of poverty, so how do you break a man who had nothing to begin with, when everything else is a blessing to him? By giving Denji everything. Makima gave him a house to live in, gave him good food, and most importantly, gave him a family to love. Makima gave Denji everything, so he would have everything to lose. And now that the contract has been broken, we see a glimpse of Pochita's true form, with his power to erase any devil from existence, completely removing that specific fear from this world. But isn't this a good thing? Any devil the Chainsaw Devil eats is permanently gone from existence. Isn't a world without fear a perfect world? Yes, but also no. Okay, let's backtrack a bit here first. Let's go back to chapter 39. Makima takes Denji on a movie marathon date. However, they both agreed that the movies were kind of mid. No matter how hard Denji tried, he couldn't understand what the other people saw in those movies. Until the last movie. It wasn't even that sad of a scene, yet brought the both of them to tears. And as they were walking out of the cinema, they start talking about that last film. And Makima says that one movie was worth the cost of all of today's tickets. And this happened to shape Denji's philosophy forever. Back to the current chapter, Denji and Makima talk for one last time. Makima wants a world that is perfect, a world that has no fear, a world that is only filled with the good things in life. But Denji has come to realize that the highs in life cannot exist without the lows. Our worst moments in life serve to make your best moments shine. How can we properly appreciate our success if we never struggled to get there? We only feel satisfaction when we are rewarded for our struggles. And as a boy who grew up with nothing, Denji knew that all too well. So they have one last battle. And Denji wins when he comes to the saddest realization that Makima never picked up the scent of Denji. She never cared about Denji at all. Her eyes were only focused on the Chainsaw Devil. Using this, he uses Pochita as bait as he sneaks up on Makima and finally defeats her. And man, after all was said and done, Denji still loved Makima. That is probably the most tragic thing about all of this. His first love ended up being the one to scar him for life, yet his feelings for her still remain. So how does he cope with this heavy amount of dread? By fucking eating her! How the fuck do you even come up with this shit? But more importantly, he decided to grant Makima's dream. As the control devil, all she's ever wanted was to form equal relationships with others. But as a devil raised by the government, she only learned to form relationships through fear. Her entire plan was a very twisted way of achieving that dream. Realizing this, when Denji meets Nayuta, the reborn control devil, all he wants to do now is create a world for her by doing his damn best to give her a life full of love and care. This was the ending I never thought I needed. And I believe this is the best conclusion that they could have ever given to Denji. In his endless pursuit of love, he's only gotten suffering out of it, but now he was given someone he could love. And it is much more special than any girlfriend could have done for him. Nobody has given him love, so now he wants to make sure Nayuta gets all the love in the world from him, so she doesn't have to live a life both Denji and Makima had. And I am so proud of him. It genuinely warms my heart to see Denji working so hard to give Nayuta a good life. And that concludes Chainsaw Man Part 1. And with Part 2 ongoing right now, I am so excited for what's to come. And what the fuck, this is a 15-minute video. Subscribe now or Denji falls in love with another red flag.